Good morning, good morning. Testing the sound here. And we have sound. Okay. Very nice. All right, so London Open starts in 3 minutes. Just want to get in here a few minutes early, make sure everything's working. Welcome, welcome. Hope you have some good coffee or whatever you consume. Cheers. Ah, yes. We're going to look at the Forex. We're going to look at the crypto. Do our thing. I wasn't here last week, but I'm here. I'm back. Let's see, make sure everything's working here. If you're here, let me know in the chat. 6 people. All right. So I'll give it a few minutes. Let's say 5 minutes, really, until we start. 5 minutes. Just to let people get in. I emailed my mailing list. We'll give it 5 minutes. Welcome, welcome. Starting in a few minutes. What's up, guys? Welcome, welcome. Starting in a couple minutes. What's up, guys? You can type in the chat. We can communicate. Or you could just lurk if you want. Start in a minute. All right. Good morning, good morning. Is the chat working? Somebody type in the chat, just let me know that it's working. Usually people have typed something by now. There is the chat, right? There you go. Good morning, good morning. Okay. Just want to make sure it's working because typically by now people have typed. It all came in at once. Oh, there we go. Okay, very good. I don't assume anything's working. That's how it goes. All right, let's get started. Good to be back. Tuesday, January 26th, 2021. Checking news. Well, I could go to the right website. Checking news for today. Light news day today. Oh, nothing medium. Oh, well, there's one medium. Otherwise, all light impact stuff. Not a news day. But we do have next thing coming up in 3 hours, light impact pound. Nothing big at all. And then U.S. session 9 a.m. New York time. In 6 hours. That's light impact stuff for today. HPI. Month to month. Blah, blah, blah. Hour after that is consumer confidence. That's our highest listed. That's medium impact. So 10 a.m. New York time. And that might do a little something. Maybe a little activity. US dollar driven, obviously, at the US Open. Especially around 10 a.m. New York time. But things are moving just fine without news, as they've been. The next high impact news isn't until tomorrow. Session open for Australia. Let me check out the rest of the week. Yeah, I was supposed to be doing. I don't know. Yeah, I'll explain to the best of my ability in a second. Yeah. So I'll explain away my flakiness in just a moment. Looking at the rest of the week. What is it? Middle end of the month. Good time for trading. It's not non-farm. That must be next week. Tomorrow's big news: U.S. FOMC statement, federal funds rate. Oh my gosh, are we doing this? Interest rate decision tomorrow for the U.S. All right. So big stuff tomorrow afternoon, late in the session. That's the main thing tomorrow. That's big stuff. And then just looking ahead, Thursday, more U.S. dollar focus. GDP, U.S. High impact Thursday. So tomorrow and Thursday is going to be big U.S. dollar days. That's really the high impact news for the week. Okay. To the charts. Glad you like the music. All I can play is like indie stuff that I recorded in my studio or mixed at my studio. It's because of copyright. So thank you. To the charts. All right. I got a different monitor, so I don't know what resolution I like. All right, we'll go with this. Let me make it bigger. And then make sure that you're seeing this right. Okay. Fix that right up there. There you go. Yeah, I forgot the music was still on. All right. So let's see what we got. I got to get caught up. What happened yesterday? What's happening? So let's just back out and apply the method. I like doing that at the beginning of the week. Tuesday's my beginning of the week. Just a quick note about start times and when I'm doing this. Sometimes it's going to be London Open. Sometimes it'll be U.S. Open. I can't even commit. That's just how I am with everything now. I'm just all over the place. But I like it. Whatever. I'm here. So, but I'll try to stick to Tuesday, Thursday. Most of them, at least. So let's see where we are. Daily point of view, we've kind of gone a bit sideways on that retracement. All right, let's get in there. So we had our uptrend in the bigger picture. We had our kind of big ABC retracement. Then we're going sideways here. As far as structure, or you could say higher highs, higher lows, but until this really happens where you have some lower lows. So yeah. Let's mark up some areas and then I'll look at the volume. Because I'm curious what this is doing at the fib. So the real question is, we know this pattern, we've seen it a million times. The volume is going to tell us the answer, and we'll get some details. But it's looking like we're likely going to be doing this because, first of all, the up move, pullback, second up move didn't end off with a lot of weakness here. It was really mixed, really mixed this day. And then here, as we're pulling back, now there is some large selling. I want to make sure that's gone, but we do have our high volume 620 overshoot and fake break pattern, which is a typical pattern. And when you have demand large here, you're going to bounce off of that. So that might be just coming around here. But the volume is there from 1 hour point of view in those fib areas, as I pointed out. And if the 5 minute is also showing that stuff nice and clean, especially today's visit. But here's the initial visit of this area that basically is going to tell us about buyers yesterday. It's a little mixed up, but certainly it's the highest volume of the session. And that's where we entered the area right there. So they did show up. as far as demand coming in and the 618 overshoot pattern. So, right, most of you know this. Okay. This is basic stuff in my material. And then working off of that as a support. Right, now we could have just broken this and started moving down, but again, it's a fake break pattern, which is a bullish pattern, and we see this in this area a lot. So those of you who know the material, this is very familiar, right? So this is how they're buying low in a way they sometimes, very often, sometimes do. So that does project that. Also, this is going to represent supply. It's a quiet, it's off hours, but we don't have any high volume supply showing there. So this is like getting right to it. Now, there's always going to be a open spike. Just want to check the chat. Okay, there's always going to be a volume open spike. Let's see what time this took place here. So this is the London open volume right here. That's always going to be high. So now after that, you take a couple candles and you chill out until you chill out. So maybe after this candle, we're typically back to our whatever it's going to be. So that's always going to be high. But before that, there was some nice volume off of this low. And obviously, this area, this 618 overshoot area, as I talk about all the time, we see every day, we talk about it. And we do see demand there, which is very typical of that area. Obviously, it's going to reveal the buy activity in these lower areas. And that's what that's all about. In the zone, and then overshoot, and fake break patterns, right? Think of it as they want to buy low starting from here, right? I just want to get a sense, zooming out on the 5-minute, how much volume is really happening down here. Because sometimes you get kind of fooled and you realize, oh, it's not even that high. But it is a lot. Of course, yesterday was the highest volume of the session. And here, it's moderate. We're just getting warmed up. And typically, it's later in the day that you get this really high volume stuff anyway. So, but that's not a bad start. Showing the activity again there. So the projection is that we are going to move up off of this. Typically at London Open with the activity spike, you want to let a few 5-minute candles happen. And then you get back to some regular stuff and you can look for the entry. This thing is just taking off, right? Right off of that. Normally you stop and test at these areas and it's just blowing through. But we'll see. I'm not going to chase it and worry about missing it for this second. But normally it's going to stop and test at the 14, which didn't happen, and so maybe likely here. I'm not worried about it if it goes up in a straight line, because normally price doesn't do that. I'm not going to act like it's going to do that. Let's look at some other stuff. But if we can get some sort of regular, again, it's just the first few candles of London, so it's hard to really trust, and see some regular stuff. So if we can get some testing and some a little more regular setup patterns in the situation, then I'll look to get in. Okay, well, let's just try to get through things here. So what's going to happen there once we settle down a little bit? It's going to be very telling if we're really expecting the up move, and maybe I'll get into that trade. So starting with that so far, there is a bullish bias, but is that sort of a universal thing here? I mean, we are really moving down in these dollar pairs, but the down moves are hitting demand. The selling is there, but the buying is coming in against it. So maybe some more than others. So you could go another route on some of these. Okay, so looking at the difference just to compare, they're very similar as far as yesterday hitting this demand off of that drop at this time of day. And then today seeing some volume. It's not huge, not convincing to enter on a 5-minute yet. And that's kind of the whole going to be the situation here. You had that support there. Fake break of that or that potentially if we pop up. So they're all in this similar situation. That's in the fib area. But I'm not going to assume that it's just going to pop up, because it's supposed to. Want to see the right stuff for entry. But this is kind of a classic ABC retracement, I guess you say, with two pullbacks, 2 down moves to fib, and then to continue from there. But there is a lot of selling, right, as far as just the momentum of it. The volume is on the stopping of the down, especially yesterday, and then again maybe here. So we would really want to make sure supply is gone, which means don't rush the setup and just chase it. Okay, let's see the 5 minute. Couple more candles on the 5 minute will be helpful. We'll get past the London Open spikes. But this is at the 14 EMA, which is a nice test for sellers now. So we could see if volume drops, potentially showing lack of supply and along with large demand. I would not mind it coming down and doing another non-London Open kind of test, right? So it's not London Open, and we get to see strength, maybe a 618 overshoot here, fake break, and really see that they're accumulating in this area and not worrying about it being London Open volume. That's always going to be high no matter what. This wasn't anything special down here as far as demand coming in, really. So hopefully we can test some levels and get some answers and see if it's right to go long or not. What's up, guys? Welcome. All right. What is this guy doing? Yeah. I'm not worried about missing this long off of a London Open spike up move like that. Not properly testing. No. Still way too early for me to feel like I'm missing something there. It'll come around, most likely. Again here, similar where we did see the largest volume in a while showing demand, but really we went quite low below that. Let's see what happened there. And lower prices always tell you about buyers. And there could have been some large demand, but they're backing off and it's not consistently buying in this area. And again, the other ones could break to the downside and it's just not enough consistent demand accumulation to stop it. So, but again, you do have that yesterday. And this is like, instead of a fake break, you have all these lower. There's still some strong selling down here where really you could get that sort of imbalance of so much demand coming in down here. But it's there again. It's there. And then, of course, London Open, meaning this off the low. But again, it's London Open, so you're going to get high volume here no matter what. So I just, want to get a straight answer here now that we can trust it. That's the thing about London Open with those spikes. And when you're in an area that's kind of important and then it's London Open, you're like, gotta wait 3 or 4 or 5 candles so I can trust what I'm seeing because the volume's just going to be high no matter what. All right. Oh, no rush. I'm chilling. Price moves around all day lately, these days. So that's the dollar pairs. I want to look at the dollar versus the yen. The dollar is mainly driving the dollar pairs. They're not driving themselves. As I recall, they were doing that our last streams. These guys were off into their own world. And now we have the correlation to some extent on so far the first 3 pairs, the dollar pairs. So we're likely back to the dollar and the yen running things and having a correlated more or less situation. Looking at the dollar yen, it's back into its rangy situation here. Rangy condition. That's just fine. As far as what looks maybe stronger or weaker, it's just chop, and that's just fine. It doesn't mean they're not both very strong or very weak, but relative to each other, they're similar. And that's tending to drive things right now. So it may be similarly, if we move up, they may be similarly weak, or at least the dollar weak if If these guys end up bouncing off this area, or if it breaks to the downside, we would say the dollar is strong, because it's all just relative, right? And the yen pairs can't be too different, since we saw what's driving things, and they're similar, the dollar and the yen. So there you go. Similar. It's like the question is really, again, this really shows it. Yes, there was buying off a low yesterday, but is there, as we continue into even lower, better buy prices, is there going to continue to be buyers and really proper accumulation and more demand than supply in this area, giving us the good long entry? So they're all correlated in that situation, right? It's just variations, some variations all on the same thing, though. So you've seen one chart, you've seen them all, right? Dollar Swiss is going to be the same thing upside down. Turn your monitor around. Obviously, some are stronger than others, some are weaker than others. The euro looks stronger, right, in this potential accumulation up move situation. The pound looks weaker, especially if we're not getting much volume here. And again, the 5-minute, we can start to trust what we're seeing. 15 minutes into the session now. And as we know, the 14 EMA. And you could even combine it with this support to resistance, but even without that. And that's showing supply. This is 10 minutes and then 15 minutes in to London, these two. So, and normally you'll start to come down off the open. So that is showing supply active on the test for sellers here. And if you're moving down in such a way here, like you see, the supply is that high, you don't want to be buying really no matter what, right? So that is suggesting we may continue down. Pound is on the weaker side, right? The volume staying fairly high, 14, pulling back, 14 EMA. But I think we all get the situation. Either way, like, you know, if we were looking to short, or at least for me, I wouldn't want to do it down here anyway. So it's not like the long is the only option. It just happens to be low and showing potentially some demand and a familiar pattern to go long. But if we see lack of demand down here, or relative to that, we see some large supply and an up move, whatever it is. So we'll have to see it develop. What it wants to do. It could come down off of this and then break to the downside because demand is just not showing up, and it does another leg down. So take it as it comes. Well, what's up, guys? OBIS. Who are you? I probably know who you are. You took AU long yesterday. Yeah, yesterday off that low was some huge demand. And that's like very clear. Now today, if we could, again, we're lower than that. We should see buyers all over this. But it's too bad we kind of did this during London Open where it's spiky and hard to trust. But that's good to hear. I'm glad you went long yesterday. And that's what's really helping making the background bullish. Like I didn't even look beyond yesterday because it's such high volume and it's clearly off a down move and potentially the reversal of that now. Hey 19. Thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. Oh, you're Umar. Okay. I'm never going to know who's who. Sucks. I got to relearn everybody. Okay, I'm going to remember. Okay. Yeah, I really had a good time mixing that. It was recorded so well and the musicians were so good. But I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to win. Part of me was like, how could you do better than this mix? And then part of me was like, it's okay. I don't know. I was conflicted. But I guess it was good enough. You never finish. You just ran out of time. So let's see what we want to do. Probably the best thing, if the long does set up, the best thing to see is that, because some of them are clearly at their test area there. Test area. Which it blew through the 14, but it's at the 50. And it's probably a fib of this high to low, whatever. The best thing we could do for the long is to come down and see the demand again into a down move, and it not be pre-London or then London Open and all this crap, right? Just a regular time of day. We don't really have to worry about news. But again, there has been a lot of selling, markdown style selling. And then on the other hand, again, there has been, especially yesterday off those low prices, and then hopefully today, clearly, there has been the accumulation down there for the reversal. So you do want to make sure the selling is gone. Do you want some very low volume, ideally test of some of these areas, which again will be the 14, which was just London Open spike, so we couldn't see it. Here we are dropping at the 50 EMA test, so that's cool. That might be showing lack of supply. But again, if it comes down and shows demand and then lack of supply, then we can really see the imbalance without the London Open crap. All right, I'll stop complaining about it, but you get the point. And as I always say, it used to not be this way. London Open spikes used to not exist. It would just warm up. Wouldn't really matter that it's exactly London Open. So here we go. Go. It used to not do that. It used to just warm up, kind of inch its way up, and then you're in. That's it. No spike. That came about in the last few years. It's annoying. Who does that? For real. Who waits till London Open? They're like, okay, I'm ready. Like an opening bell in Forex? Like, come on. 24-hour market. Money has to be moved around, I guess. What's up, guys? Great song, great mix. Someone else's material. Yes. Yeah, they're really great cover band, huh? Those guys. It's rare that I admire. I mean, they're not original artists, songwriters, as far as this thing, but they're really good at what they do. It's rare that I would admire somebody that much from afar. Telling my friends, check it out. It's the best cover band on YouTube right here. Check these guys out. Amazing. Good songs. And then to end up doing that for them and being, doing the mix for their video and then talking to them. And I could call them up if I want. I probably wouldn't take the call, but So let's see if we get something going. Look at the cryptos at some point. So now we're into trustworthy territory on the candles. Let's see what it wants to tell us that it wants to do. Again, are we dropping off because of the time of day? We're back to normal, or is it really low supply? Friggin' London Open spike. 1 minute doesn't hurt to look at some details. Yeah, there was a bit of selling there. You can see the spikes, sort of a double top thing. That's AU. But it's early. If we can get, 2 moves, low volume test, high volume demand, this, that, or the other, then we kind of have stuff we can trust. Is it just going to want to go? We'll see. That's not bad here on the volume drop and then push through. Let's see what happens here. This is, was that the old support? All right, I'll draw as I usually do. Pushing through the test area. So this candle is going to be very telling about supply, sellers, weakness, whatever you want to call it. This candle will be very telling. If it's high volume and it gets squashed down, there's still a lot of selling, right? That could bring it back down to the low. And on the other side, if we close at or near the high with volume dipping down, then it's likely to move up from this point. It shall tell us about sellers. 2 minutes till the close. Again, I wouldn't mind a bit so it can bring it down and show us demand that's not London open crap. This could do a fake break, 618 overshoot, whatever. Or even demand here a bit higher. Just normal stuff once you get down here. They're not in your city. Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking for them, the next level is maybe an actual celebrity. Like, it's not a cover. You know, you have the singer, the original singer of the song, right? Is that not the next level for those guys? If you're a famous singer, let's say you're even retired, whatever, you had a bunch of hits 20 years ago, right? 30 years ago, 40 years. I would go play with them, and the band's broken up. You're not really doing much, but you still can sing. I would go play with these guys, do one of my hit songs with them on YouTube, right? Why not? Michael McDonald or whoever, you know. Is he still alive? Is anyone still alive? I was going to name some people. I'm like, oh, they're not around anymore. That's right. Yeah, okay. We're testing for sellers. I'm not completely convinced to go long here. We didn't look at this, but again, it's kind of the same. I need a drink. This one's seen a pretty extreme drop down here. And in this case, and somebody mentioned they went long Australian dollar yesterday, I guess it was AU. But in this case, we have this buying into the low. And then the next time around, if they're not really showing up, if it's followed by weakness, then I'm looking to go short. Right? We kind of shifted to the imbalance to the other direction. So we could easily move up, hit weakness, and things are going to be bearish. And we have certainly not seen the highest volume of the day yet. I guess the euro kind of wants to go here. The pound. So that did close, as I said, at or near the high on decreased volume. It's not a lot of volume, really. The closing there. If everything leading up to it was a bit better. Again, we want strength in this area. It's all, you know, this is pre-market levels, and it's kind of similar. And then it drops off, and then you have London open spike you can't trust. That's not quite right. But I'm going to hang out for a little while and see what we can find. It's early. I don't want to jump into that. I gotta work off London open spike. All right, maybe. Let's see what this is gonna do. I don't like it. It's not good enough. Daryl Hall and John Oates. John Hall, Daryl Oates. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Those guys. Well, maybe a break test continuation or maybe something else to convince me on this. So far, the lack of supply, lack of weakness on the pound up move is like the first real trustworthy good information. If we can pull back and get some strength along with that, right? That might be something. Well, things are starting to confirm a too risky for me long setup that I'm not taking. But I would like to try to find something here and hang out. I don't have to take the first mediocre thing here. What are the cryptos doing? I guess we'll look at it in a second. A lot of them are sitting in buy territories right now. As far as the swing trades. Yeah, we'll get to that. All right, so just following the pound story. Weakness has appeared, ladies and gentlemen. Deploy. So I don't mind that, and maybe we can come down and get some proper accumulation. That's not pre-London, London Open. Just a bit, but hopefully it's enough to do a little better setup pattern, bring it down a bit. The euro. Low volume on the push up here. It's kind of bullish. But there's only so many things that could happen. Hopefully not, and no one's lost here. If we see this limited amount of supply, as I just pointed out, and we come down and see some larger demand again, some clean stuff, then we're very high probability moving up out of this area, correlating all of them. And I would look for the long entry. Other things can happen, like we just keep moving up here and we get some very high volume supply coming in. And compared to the demand volume, especially the overview and the larger time frames, it could be much, much higher. Of course, volume-wise, showing weakness, right? We want to be shorting. And so on. So we'll just see how it develops. The best thing is, hopefully this is helping you read a chart, know what's going on. Whether we get a setup or not. But we knew at the close of this candle, by the look of it, that some selling, some supply came in, right? And then we're seeing this reaction, which is typical after that. Really confirming it. And again, more or less, if you flip around, there's a correlation, the whole thing. The euro generally didn't see much of that weakness come in. And especially if you have a high that tops off like this, not showing much weakness, and maybe you come down and get a pop of strength, you're very likely moving up to that area. You put your stop over here, and you get to move up, right? So stuff like that could come together. It's good to be back. I got a lot of projects that are in limbo, not because of my doing, because when you work with other people, you can't control everything. So I'm kind of sitting here like, okay, I don't know if I'm doing this. I don't know if I'm doing that. I don't know if I'm doing that. This one's delayed. This one's on hold. This person has to talk to this person. It was messing with my head. I'm like, I'm going to live stream, get back into my own world. My happy place. Maybe I'll give away a course. How about a giveaway? Who wants a course? Good. Here we go through the process. Okay, cool. Aside from whether it's a trade to take. All right, good. Yes. Yeah, I'm not putting any pressure on myself to like make something happen. If it's there, it's there. When these sessions were paid for, I did 3 times a week. If we didn't get a trade and it's Wednesday, Thursday, and we didn't get anything yet, I try to pull something out. Especially like the last few, right? If you remember. Roger, were you there? I don't know. But, and we usually did, and we usually could grab something. And that's kind of, how I still may approach things. Like, if I haven't gotten anything by Wednesday, Thursday, I can usually squeeze something. But you can't, if you know, yes, you're Dr. Phil. I remember who you are. If it's not there, it's not there, though. Whatever, right? But we had a lot of those September, October, and November. Because a lot of times also the setups don't happen until the U.S. session, and we were doing London Open. So I want to get a trade during the sessions. But yeah, it's Tuesday. It's early. We're good. If you're learning, that's the main thing. So, as I talked about, break test continuation could happen here. I'd rather see it, as I said, come down to show proper demand, especially after that weakness. But that didn't show up everywhere. What's the Australian dollar doing up here now? Yeah, it's just kind of sitting there without much weakness. Yeah. If I do go long, I might start with something small percentage. Unless it cleans itself up and gives me something more typical that I take. All right, this is all messed up now because of my old monitor size. How often do I stream live? It's Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's going to be most Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm going to miss some here and there. But typically I'll email and try to keep you informed when I know. So if you go to the website and type your email into the subscribe box, then at least you get some heads up. There's the website in the chat. I'd be interested to hear why you now rarely use the third volume bar being lower than the previous two. Oh, no supply, yeah. Well, I kind of came to realize years ago, really at this point, that was a condition that they came up with to program software. It's crazy to think that that's really how the market works. Tom Williams wasn't doing that. I rest my case. It's a software thing. So it evolved into the lower the better for no supply or no demand. The lower the better, right? Or think of it as the lower it is, the better the quality of the trade. Makes sense, right? Which would say the imbalance is more extreme the lower the volume is. Lower than previous two, I would bet, came about because you got to program this into software. Don't get me started. Make him talk about Trade Guider again. Stop it. No demand. That makes sense, though? Meanwhile, for some reason, my no supply, no demand, worst video I ever made has the most views. It's like my one viral video. It's my worst video. And talking about something that I don't do the same because that was how I learned it. So I was passing on that information, which was technically the definition. Still is, but I've evolved it into the lower the better. And if it's all really low, but it's slightly higher than the previous, but it's really low in context, would you not take the trade, right? You know what I'm saying? Do you still use the rule that the third volume bar needs to be at least lower than the previous two? Well, yeah, see, as I said that probably just as you typed that. Let's say there's a general area where they're testing for supply, and volume drops off there relative, but you just don't have lower than previous two on your exact no supply candle, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a little slightly higher than the previous, but again, generally low volume. So I don't look at it that way anymore at all. what to do with this pound situation. I'm just thinking about maybe putting a small position on this. Stop loss is a bit on the large size here. So it would have to be really small if we're talking small. The thing is, we're testing for supply here. There may not be enough to bring it down and hit the demand and accumulation stuff. And again, if the supply is really low, we're likely just going into markup. But, yeah. I'm not going to worry about it. Plenty of time. I'm sure I'll see something I like better than this today. I'll hang out for a while. That could be a scalp trade. Some of you know my scalp method off the 14 EMA, which it did really nicely on the way down. The 14 EMA checks. And again, if we're moving up here, supply is low. We may get that type of entry. I'm not going to worry about it going in a straight line without me, as I say. 90% of the time, it doesn't do that. No soup on the candle rule, correct. I've come a long way in, and hopefully people are that are learning my stuff from these rigid definitions and things that you memorize and you're not really sure why. Just some of it makes sense, some maybe not sure, and it's very rigid, as opposed to just reading the charts and understanding what's going on, and it makes sense. And you kind of drop the names and the definitions, and you're just reading the situation. So there's no, cookie cutter setup kind of thing, even though there is certain things that I require. But some of that stuff's just too rigid and labeled and weird. Dennis, how are you? I read Master of the Markets 3 years ago, and it was a great intro to VSA, but then I found your channel and been here ever since. Thanks for all your material. Very welcome. Cool. At this point, I'm just here to help. I'm not charging for the sessions. Nice to hear. Basically, I could save you the trouble of, because you read Master of the Markets 3 years ago, and then you probably looked around this and that. You came across my stuff, and you kind of evolved. That was me 12 years ago. And I went through all the trouble of trying everything and having to figure it all out. And this is where I ended up. Save people some time. I mean, if you can read the Master of the Markets, open up your charts and go, okay, now I know what to do, and start making money. That was great. Go ahead. If not, maybe I could fill in the rest, make it a little more straightforward, logical. For us dumb people, I don't know. We just can't do it like that. We must be stupid. I do this every time. Stop it. I do this every time. Love you, trade guider people. Yep, I reckon once chart background is understood, one can relax on being rigid about the fader rules. I was still struggling with correctly reading background 100% of the time. Background, simply put, would be, where are the high volume points? We're talking about background 1 hour chart. Where are the high volume points and what do they mean? And where do they occur? And what does that tell you? In addition to where high volume may have not appeared at some important points. And what does that tell you didn't happen? Another thing I say is, where's the big money position from? In what direction is that? And does it look like they're looking to get out or add? Or hold? If you could piece that stuff together, right? Like in this case, where they positioned from, the largest volume is yesterday off the low in our recent background. So a lot of longs from here. Now, are they looking to get out of those positions? Well, we don't see supply coming into an up move, so we're not in that case. Are they looking to simply hold? Well, we're not trending up. We're still down here. So then it leaves the other question. Are they adding? Are they still looking to buy? And that's what we're being told here, which again happened at pre-London and then London Open. So it's really hard to get a read. And then from an 1 hour point of view, it's not very high. You know, it would have been nice to see something pop up here to really show that accumulation. So, and then we kind of struggle to see the proper imbalance in the 5-minute because of that. But that's the situation right now, at least, right? Now, the selling was pretty strong, a lot of momentum, a lot behind it. So I really don't want to see a proper setup to go long here. You know, sometimes you just kind of drift your way down and then bam, you get the buying. This is, you know, there was some large selling, marked out style, panic style, or whatever you want to call it. I'll make sure that's gone. And again, moving up through these areas and not seeing weakness, seeing volume decrease, it means we're likely moving up. I'm not worried about it going in a straight line and not getting a chance today to get something. I don't even need a huge trade. I just want something nice, high probability. But in the bigger picture, this could really move up. Things could go back to their high. That is the projection off of this to try to continue the trend if it works out right. But I just want to see, you know, it's early, it's Tuesday. We have London Open messing up the setup a bit. A little give and take test here and there. Here we have, again, some supply coming in. Maybe here. That could bring it down. And then show high, maybe the highest volume of the session demand comes in off the low, right? And so on. So a little couple of points of information. But it was able to do a bit of markup and not see much supply. So that's our information. Again, if we see that along with some large demand, then we'll have a better situation to look to get in for the long. Good. Chart fader. First name chart. Cool. Hopefully that helps. Sometimes the background is unclear, though, just so you know. Sometimes you see it and you say, I don't see it. There's no real plan here. They don't really know what they're doing. They're not on the same page. You could have large buying and large selling in a small price area without much outcome as a result. Like, what do you do off of that? You know that they're positioned long and short from that high volume area, and you couldn't move up or down as a result thing. So it's uncertainty. That's not a high probability situation. So there's going to be those times, of course. That's probably 1 out of 10, 1 out of 8 days. It's just, let them figure it out. And once they figure it out, we'll know. A lot of times in those cases, though, you can get range trades, fake breakouts to the upside and the downside. When you see volumes saying they don't really have a bias, it's not an imbalance, I'll typically just go for the range fake breaks, 5-minute setups. So again, as I pointed out, right, when this candle closed, that we had some supply coming in. You see the reaction. So we're just taking in the information. We might have found a bit of sellers. Let's get a couple of test points and a little storyline to see how the balance is. Pound as well, which started to move up nicely on some decreasing volume, lack of selling, and then finally here. And that's just factual information. There are large sell orders that came in here. Otherwise, the increase in activity would have led to an increase in the up move, but really didn't do much. So that's where they were. Right in there is where they were. And so if you're marking up price and you see that, you'll tend to back off. Unless you're really a powerhouse and you're just going to blow through it. Like the Bear Stearns. The Lehman Brothers. Both of them. Both of them. So it's like we tested the waters to the upside. It was a pretty easy ride. And then we now, again, previous candle hit some supply. Let's see what it does. Maybe it pulls back and gives us, and that supply is not huge. Maybe it gives us some large demand on down moves. We're just following. We're understanding what's going on. That's what we're doing. Lauren TH, how are you? Overnight, they didn't sell euro. Red volume is not increasing. I mean, supply? Selling? Euro dollar from 1 hour point of view, we are testing 14. Yeah, Dennis, hi. 10th is the end of Asian session. 10th hour. All right. Thank you very much. Euro, from 1 hour point of view, testing 14. Okay, let's see there. Yeah. Again, here, the pound, you see some high volume on the up move. We'll see the result. Found some supply. Like I said, we'll get a few points of information and a story as to what's going on today before I would enter anything. And not just worry about chasing the up move. Well, that's interesting. See that on the 1 minute. Where exactly did that volume occur? So there's your supply coming in. Some weakness that we saw on the 5 minute. There's your reaction. And a bit of mix here. Some demand did come in there. We'll let them figure it out. Need something cleaner. I think probably most of you know my setups, what the 5 minute typically looks like. And how this is not quite right. What we need to see. Roger, do you ever have cause to try and determine, guess at the proportion of buying versus selling in any one volume tick candle? A volume tick? Well, or candle, particularly within the high volume candles. The thing is, buying versus selling, that's when you got to get into, first thing that comes to mind is within what period of time. Now you said tick, so I don't know if you mean really a tick, but you're saying a candle. It's where it went and where it closed. But you have to, if you're comparing buying versus selling, you got to give it some time frame. You could mean all day today versus all day yesterday. Or you could say a 1 minute candle versus a 1 minute candle, right? So whatever time you mean. If you're saying within 5 minutes, 5 minute candle, trying to determine if there's more buying or selling, then what is it? Then of course you can look at the activity and what it did on that activity. And if you're moving up and you get some very high volume and it moves down as a result, you close well off the high back to near where you open, or even close down, whatever. Then you know there was more selling than buying, and price ended up lower based on that volume. And also looking at the result helps really define strength and weakness like that. All right, so we're hanging out. We're reading charts. If I see something I like, I'll trade it, and I'll tell you what it is. But no pressure, whatever the charts give. I think I'm going to make a fresh coffee. Yes, okay. Be back in a minute.
Some peace of mind. I learned late life ain't always kind. Still you make the best of it. You never give up, never quit. Curse out this world, who gives a shit? Get a punching bag to hit. Let it out, let it out. Chosen path. You see, it isn't tricky like math. I put all my faith into God's hands.
The coffee is brewing. It's very important. Got it. Just watch for the reaction to the. Oops. Watch for the reaction to the high volume bar. Yet don't worry for the proportion of buying versus selling within that bar. Also remember that which direction it's moving. And the higher prices tell you about sellers, lower prices tell you about buyers. So if you're moving up, 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 as we saw some examples here, and then suddenly the volume increases into higher prices, then you know the selling increased. Unless you get some, very large green candle. Typically those candles will be, relatively similar, but all of a sudden the volume increased. So remember, volume is activity. So the activity increases, but the up move doesn't speed up or cover more ground. There must be selling as part of that activity, right? So think of which direction you're moving in. All right, let's see what's happening. Pound just wants to go, huh? Well, sometimes it does go in a straight line. Wasn't quite good enough for me to get into that long. And again, after seeing some supply, it's popping up again. But again, I'm hanging out for a little bit. We'll see if we can get something. These up moves on the pound may have, or at least doesn't have to come back to the low at this point if we're going to already start to see this markup stuff. And maybe some of these higher prices will show lower volume, unlike this one. And then even a small fib retracement, or even a 14 EMA test for a long entry. So there are options if that's going to be the case. But I don't chase. Man, this AU has some really low volume until higher prices. Again, we're just talking about higher prices tell you about sellers, and we're seeing this is the lowest volume of the session since the London Open up here. I kind of want to put something small on this. Oh, I wish the background was better. I wish the low was better. It's not terrible. This is real right here. This is London Open. This was real as far as strength off the low. Man, these are just look like they're going. EJ. What would be my stop on Australian dollar? 30 pips to get it below the low. I mean, initially this was a test area. It pushed through and it had a bit of volume on it, and now we're floating up and we're really starting to see. That's the only reason I'm considering it now suddenly is we're dropping off in volume into lower prices. Maybe here. Then we're really going to keep pushing up. What an ugly choppy start on some of these. And then they just kind of want to take off. What shall we do? Ooh, that's hot. Pound's really taken off. Let me see the euro versus the pound. Runaway pound. Look at the euro getting destroyed. Okay, so again, not in a rush. If this pound situation is the deal right now, it's in a strong markup style, I can look to get in on a 14 EMA test. I don't chase the first move of the session off of a bad background. Feel free. I'm not doing that. Wow, look at that low volume on the 8. Oh my gosh. I'm going to put a little position on the Australian dollar after that, I think. I'm at least opening up my platform in my phone. That is really low at higher prices. Now if I put a stop all the way down here to allow for the double bottom pick break, it's a bit big. That is really low volume. Australian dollar moves. The AJ might. It's so chasey. It's so chasing the first move. Sorry, I forgot the music was on. All right. I'm at least getting convinced that I do want to be going long. I'm, again, chasing the move is not really what I do. You know how it is. Chase a move. The second you get in, that's when the retracement starts. Fear of missing out, right? I ain't falling for that shit. But I do like the imbalance showing up where you do have, again, pre-London Open, we couldn't get the cleanest bottom, but the higher price is showing decrease in volume. It shows that supply, higher prices are not attracting sellers. We're likely to continue in that direction. If we pull back off of a high that looks like that, that's the kind of high we like when we go long. If we can see strength on a down move or whatever we can get. All right. So we know what I'm looking for. Any questions, let me know. starting to be pretty convincing on this up move, showing lack of supply, and that's the direction. I mean, we started off the session saying it's looking bullish, but instead of really giving us a nice clean setup pattern or something decent, it just kind of took off. So, but it is still confirming that that is the case. So that's what we know so far. More confirmation of bullishness in the form of a lack of selling into an up move. So if I can see strength and proper entry, most of you know the entries. But that is big. The last couple of candles into new high ground with decreasing volume. Think of it as the opposite of weakness. Let's think of it that way, right? Is the Euro 5-minute doing break test continuation? Let's see. Is that the pattern here? I guess if you're calling this the automatic rally, or at least we knew this was, I mean, it's very rough. Is that the automatic rally? Is that a resistance? But I get what you're saying. This general area and this whole thing, we did pop up. And possibly. The thing is, the highest volume here, this is all kind of medium mellow stuff except for this, which, if we look, basically this stuff. Yeah, there was a bit of supply, a bit of demand, kind of mixed up. If we can get a bit lower and see demand, that would be nice. But I wouldn't really call it a clean break test continuation because we don't really have a level that we came down and then broke and then came back to test. It's just kind of mushy in here with a bit of mixed up volume right there. Not so clean in my opinion. The thing is, on these up moves, we didn't really get a proper automatic rally. This was like, okay, I guess we're marking this. As far as calling it a resistance, we know it's a test area, so that helps in marking it. The 14 EMA I always like. This one just blew through where you normally stop and test. And then again, this one is just kind of blurry. And then this barely did it here as well. I can't really get a resistance to break and test. As the usual pattern, it's always more of a straight line. Jeez, look at that activity kicking up there. Oh my gosh, the volume is so low. Give me a break. The Australian dollar stuff. Oh, I don't want to chase though. Don't do this to me. Well, maybe it is going up in a straight line. It's that 10% of the time, that 7% of the time that it hits support or whatever. And then it just goes up for an hour. Hour and a half, hour. Some of you know the scalp entries. And this is the exact type of condition where you would look for that, which is simply, again, if you're seeing such low volume like this off of high prices, and you test the 14 EMA and you get a proper reaction to that, that's the entry. You're very likely going back to the high and trying to break through. That's very high probability. So, I mean, I'll likely get some sort of something better here, unless it just goes in a straight line, which is fine. If I miss it, I miss it. But if you look just to the left of on the down moves, right, the 14 EMA. The 14 EMA is like, right, that's the behavior. That's the reason why we have these scalp entries off the 14 EMA. So again, here on the way up, if it goes up all day, there might be 3 touches of the 14 EMA, right? Just like you see on the way down here. Australian dollar rise. It's Australia Day here. Is that a thing? It's Australia Day? I don't know. I recommended Wall Street bets for reckless content. Well, the pound is doing it too. But again, that much is clear right now on most of these pairs. Most of them. Euro aside, right? But the pound, the Australian dollar, AU, AJ, pound yen, pound dollar. Very much the Australian dollar is very, very bullish here. This up move is a real deal. It's not getting sold into. If this whole thing could have shifted a little later and we didn't have to deal with London Open happening right at the low, we may have got something more typical. But these kind of moves to start the session doesn't always do this stuff. This is a good time. You don't need news to move price. So I will likely get something. Hang out for a while and see what we get. Meanwhile, we can look at the crypto charts at some point. If anyone wants to, let me know. And if you're unfamiliar, I swing trade, so it's not in and out of trades in a day. I only buy crypto and then sell them off. I don't short. Which has been a good thing, right? It's good. Imagine you sold at 10,000. Which was only a few months ago. But generally on the cryptos, and anyone here who has the course knows the method, we're in our buy areas, right? We're looking at accumulation going on all the majors. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Stellar, whatever, XRP. They're all correlating and showing, the last couple of down moves, down move or two. You see fake breakouts, Bitcoin, all that volume off the low. So they're taking their time accumulating. Yes, for cryptos. The majors. It's weird calling them the majors, but that's what they are. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. Those are the majors. Okay, let's look at a chart. I don't want to miss anything here if we pull back a little bit. So I'll click back and forth. All right, let me get that open. The cryptos. I tried to make a trading view template that looked like my MT4 so I could just go to trading view for everything. Ugh, I hated it. It's not the same. All right. I'll show it to you. It's a cheap imitation. Meanwhile, let's go back to my crypto template. All right, give me 1 second so I can close this and switch over. Oh, that didn't work. Well, there we go. All right, so everyone should be seeing the Bitcoin chart now. If not, let me know. Yeah, we can. Okay. Is it like your Columbus Day? We have Columbus Day. It's funny what you're saying. So, Australia Day, but this ignores the much longer history, 65,000 years of our indigenous people, Aborigines, but that's for another channel. Yeah, it's like saying, so America was discovered 200 years ago. Right. Yay. What? Not exactly, but okay. So, this is pretty clear. As those of you who may know the method, right? We're in accumulation areas here. I bought here after this dip and, close up kind of deal. Here we have a fake break. And, that's a chance where if, it gives you a bit more confidence if you have that risk room to maybe put on a bit more on a fake break pattern and confirmation of accumulation down here. This looks very similar to some of the other stuff we just looked at in the Forex. This is the 4-hour chart, which is kind of the home base and for swing trading. I like that on cryptos. So, to kind of, we had that out of this world up move, but so I can't really go back and go through different things. But how we ended up here, of course, there was plenty of pre-positioning and longs that we were in. And some of these profit-taking opportunities, large selling came in there. And then here, some really large selling there. Right, and then looking to buy. So I'm getting in and out in percentages for those who may not know how I'm doing this. I do have a course, if anybody wants it. Maybe I'll give one away today. So this, and I like the fake break pattern. This reaction here is key, right? It's nice when it's one time, when you see a good result as far as buying. No, Siri, I'm not talking to you. Sorry. She wants attention. I don't know. But to see it a second time, right, on the fake break, it's probably a fib area, whatever. High volume again, right, and the quick fake break. So very high probability we're going to move up from here. And even if we don't get back to the high, these positions will be into nice profit percentage-wise. Because here we're at 31. If we move to 37, 38, that's already a nice percentage increase on what you bought there. Doesn't have to go to the high. We read the chart, we look at weakness. But everybody's kind of in that mode on these days. This freaked out a lot of people. And I was down a very small amount at that point, which I talked about in the last webinars, and was able to buy. I banked some since that buying, and then on some of them added lightly again So again, there's that big drop and the buy and being able to really bank profit on some of them. And then reaccumulate again here. Ethereum has been nice and the chart has been forecasting how nice. Because if you look, right, this is a fake break. We look at those same points. Ethereum, it's that, and it's a higher, it's a fib retracement, 6-way overshoot. Right, you can see it doing better. And look at the lack of selling into the new high ground. See the imbalance between this high showing sellers and the low showing buyers. Look at that imbalance. And to be back here is not a surprise. Now we have a limited amount of selling. There's some. So we may go back down, maybe a fib retracement here, a little lower, and see some buying. Or we come back to this and do another pop here, right? But we're tracking them. And there's a lot of longs. After this dip, right, they took advantage of the lower prices. There's a lot of longs here, and not so much selling off, and limited selling off here on the fake break, new high ground. That's about sellers. Limited in comparison, right? So after this insane up move, they're now back to sort of taking their time. Like we saw this, I think, in July into August or something, if I remember, if you go back. September or something like that, where we did see accumulation for a while. And again, swing trading, you know, sometimes you get a week or two, it's just not much going on. But you're positioning, you're pre-positioning. We may be taking some smaller profits, but nothing big goes on. But they're taking their time accumulating, and it does, you know, eventually do what you expect it to do. And those of you who've been trading my method and learned from the course, let me know. You all should be certainly making money. I mean, at least 10% a month, at least. I mean, if we're talking about December, that's kind of nuts. That should be more than 10%. But it should be a steady growth. And for January, I have made some decent profit. And it's amazing to look back at January itself, which on Bitcoin starts here, January. Moved up, moved down, up, down, sort of in the middle, right? We didn't trend and trend up, and I still have been making money off of cryptos in the sideways range, right? Buying into these dips, selling some higher, buying, selling some higher, which I haven't done again here. Ethereum, I certainly did. That was nice. So, and this is mostly just sideways with a fake break and a fake break. So it's not, you know, it doesn't have to trend upward if you're buying low and selling high, even in these proper areas. You can be into a range, a sideways range forever and still make that money. It doesn't matter. So should I switch back to the Forex? I don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to switch back for now. If you have any questions about cryptos, I can still answer them, but I do want to keep an eye on that. Okay, let me go back. Switching back charts. What's the key difference in the fader approach for crypto versus FX? It's portfolio based, meaning you have a, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever you choose to do. You can always get into details, talk about what makes sense for you. That you're constantly holding. You never sell it all off. There's no stop loss. There's no margin call. There's no margin. There's no shorting unless you buy it first and then you can sell it. So it's straight exchange. It's a straight up foreign exchange, or currency exchange. And I always own some. It's just I own more on the way up than I do on the way down. So if Bitcoin wants to go crazy and go up 30%, I'm going to have something on the entire time. If it wants to go into a downtrend and there are spots where I'm seeing buyers, I have the flexibility and the percentage and the room to continue to buy into down moves. And it doesn't have to reverse the entire down move to start seeing profit again. But it's, right, without getting into the whole deal. Let me check up the chat. So maybe we're getting a pullback on this up moves and I can find my way in long in the Forex. But you see the 4-hour chart is really home base. That's all I need. I do check lower time frames here and there when I'm really making a decision, but 4 hours, the guide, the overall guide, because the 5 minute, the 1 hour could look like something, and you put it in perspective, it's not maybe as great as you may think. That overview on the 4 hour is key. Selling out this ignores much longer history. Oh, where am I? Key difference. Okay, the most recent similar thing that comes to mind is September drop. All right, turned off my chart, but okay, yeah, if we're talking about the drop and the buying. Doesn't it feel bad when price moves like 50 pips in a direction and you had no clue it could do that? Does it feel bad? No. I don't have emotions like that. I'm glad I make an income from trading. That's crazy. I mean, come on, I'm human, so maybe for a second, but no. I don't have the I missed it kind of thing. I mean, we're looking at this up move, and I opened the charts and talked about buying, and we're sitting here watching price move up. I said, well, you could take it if you want. Not quite good enough for me yet. And that's really fine. Just the idea that I can make an income and pay my bills off for this. I mean, have some perspective, you know what I mean? Of course, I'm human, and I'll say, damn, that would have been nice. But it's all good. Not tracking percentage gain, but the portfolio is growing, says Dennis. Okay, good. Your crypto portfolio is growing. Very good. Starting to get into the routine. It's a routine now, right? Hopefully. You start to get a sense. When things move down, you open up your Coinbase or whatever you're using, you see your portfolio balance. You know, that's what I do. I check that throughout the day here and there. I don't just go to the charts. I just look at my portfolio balance. If it's moved down significantly, you know, okay, a down move is going on. Then I'll open the charts and I'll say, well, is it time to buy? Oh, goody. Instead of saying, oh, my portfolio's down. Oh, shit. It's called a discount. Good. Because it goes down and up, both directions. Not just down, not just up. Typically after it goes down, it goes up. Hey, you reached the 14? Okay, let's get back to that. Yes, I always hold. Yes, I never sell off the whole thing. Yes. If there's a big up move on the cryptos, say to yourself, yeah, Pete Fader's in that. Definitely. It barely reached the 14 EMA. Oh my gosh. It didn't technically hit it. And when I glanced over, I'm like, okay, we didn't touch it. Maybe we'll get to it. Oh, come on. So close. That's barely a retracement. Come on. Ugh. I'm really fine with it. Like I said, it's bullish, but it wasn't quite good enough for me, so I'm okay with it. If you took it, if you went along somewhere, cool. Again, the way things are moving, I'll find something I like today. Most likely. Yeah, Australian dollar is really strong. The pound is really strong. And the dollar and the yen are looking very weak. So everything's moving up against them. So that's the basic situation. Dollar and the yen, pretty similar relative to each other. Since the session opened, it's just chop. but everything's moving up against them because they are weak. They're just similarly weak. So when you compare it to each other, they look like sideways. But all the yen and the dollar is weak, so everything's moving up against it. That's what's causing everything here, as the market typically does more often than not. Driven by the dollar and the yen. So today they are weak. Now, if we can get a proper sign of strength, we already know the conditions are good for long, but I'm not going to chase it. We started off the session really with a rare, just moving up in a straight line. So that's all right. It's really good conditions, so probably get something. Could be a little fib retracement of this up move we had so far today. Whatever it is. Are we switched back to the Forex? Oh, we're not. Ah, crap. Let me do that. Switching back to the Forex. Let's see. All right. Yeah, there you go. Obis. You're Umar. I know. I remember now. I'm getting it. Obis. Come back. All right. We're hanging out. We're understanding what's happening. And the bullish environment is nice. We'll see if we can find our way in and follow the storyline. We're reading the chart. If a setup happens, it happens. To my liking. And I will take it. What time is it? Oh, it did almost 2 hours. All right, I'm hanging. I think we all want to know my analysis. Any questions, let me know. Anything develops, we'll talk about it. I got like allergies like it's spring, but it's still January. It's weird. And then my wife said today, spring's coming soon. I could feel it. It's going to be early. She's always right about these things. I used to doubt her, and then I saw she's right. How do you know this? I said, you know what? I have allergies today. Like it's spring. She's like, yeah, see? How did she know that? Weird. I mean, Earth is just like, kiss my ass. I'll do what I want at this point. You all suck. Yeah, the Earth said that. Yeah. Okay, well, somebody sold a little bit right here. Let's bring it down, see some strength, and get long, because that's a nice top to be buying into. The lower the volume, the better up there. A little double top without much weakness. That's good. There's our 14 EMA test, finally. Ask about a trade I took on the U short on the 21st. Dr. Phil, gonna make me work. I'm 95% sure why the trade failed. Well, it could have been a good trade, just not every trade. It's just not 100%. But possibly. More detailed explanation of what happened in the price area. All right, we're testing 14 EMA here, so let's make sure we keep an eye on it. On the 21st, oh gosh, I gotta do background, I gotta see what levels we're at. 21st. What the hell went on the 21st? Biden's first day. Corn Pop was a bad dude. Come on, man. What'd you do? Trade? What'd you do? Trade this madness? That is madness. 14 EMA test, high volume. I don't know what you did. Strength. Supply coming in and then a push through at low volume, so it became bullish. And you got some madness going on. Why do I not also short crypto? Because probably both ways. Because number one, I think it's going up over time, and my hold strategy has been correct and good. I do not want to be caught in the wrong direction on this thing. No. This way, I literally see if I'm going in both directions. I mean, you get it's a different thing altogether. Then you take losses. See, I don't actually take losses. If my portfolio's down, I'm looking for buy opportunities, and I have enough room where I'm not going to commit everything and just look at it sink. That's just how I prefer to do it with cryptos. Been buying the dips for the last few years, and it's worked. And it quadrupled in value, so I just don't want to be on that side of it. That's fine. It's a completely different mindset. Rather than just what it seems like maybe on the surface is, okay, you buy and you make money off up moves. Why not short and make money off down moves? It actually changes the whole thing. It changes the whole method by doing that. As opposed to the own more on the way up than you do on the way down approach. But there's never been anything that I say is, well, this is likely just to go up and up and up and up. And so far I've been right. When my course came out, Bitcoin was at 10,000 in March. Well, in March it was at 5,000 for a minute, but that was the next day after the course came out. Discount. Oh, look at that. Okay, moving up in a straight line all day? I think not. But does that make sense? It's the only thing that I would say is this thing's just going to go up. It's probably going to be 5 years before crypto is more of a stabilized uptrends, downtrends, like the U.S. dollar kind of thing is right now. I think it's still going to be a few years till it's that. It's just buy the dips, buy and hold, and as price moves up and up and you see weakness coming in, you sell it off in fractions. I took the short at the low volume. I guess the trade failed because of the state sellers at the double top. It seemed very, very sloppy up there, and then the test didn't show demand. It's a very sloppy chart, and I can't really do all the background and everything right now. All right, yeah, we want to keep an eye on this. There we go. I said that's a very nice top. If we can move down to see strength, maybe at this fib, then we can get something. And there it is. All right, so it's nice to see a predictable thing happen. Look at the 1 minute reaction to the fib. Very nice. You can look at the 1 minute because it's about price areas, not time frames. All right, so we had a down move that's aggressively being bought into all over the place. We see the pound right off the 14. Aggressive buying, aggressive buying. Wow. Australian dollar, not so much. This is 30 seconds. It's going to pop up on volume, 14 EMA. This guy's at fib. Interesting. EJ. Obviously, the euro's just not marking up like the others. But it got bought into there. Let's see the dollar-yen situation. Okay, they're both similar, so they're all going to be doing that. And then the dollar index, just to see what the heck's going on there. Weakness, which comes across as strength. Okay. Is that it? That's the whole retracement right there? The pound just jumped off the 14 EMA. Again, we're pointing out these 14 EMA pullbacks, right, and strong moves and looking for that sort of thing. That just jumped off of there, you know, instead of sitting here, right, and kind of doing that. Sitting around here and then starting to pull away. It's just bam. But it makes you think, well, maybe it's very bullish, but be careful for a second here. This is typically what you get, you know, like a small candle or two, and then you start to pull away. This is actually slow compared to usual. That's early in the day when that happened. Still not my cup of tea here to enter at this very moment. But you could take the aggressive long to go with those buyers that just jumped all over that little down move. But what's this? Would the crypto method change when they will stabilize in the future? Or would you continue swing trade portfolio approach? It works until it doesn't. Who knows? I don't even know if that's going to happen with it. I mean, you would think, I'm no expert in this stuff, you would think that if it's going to be a real currency that is going to be used a lot, it's got to stabilize. It can't be doing, 10%, 20% in a day, in 2 days and 3 days of fluctuations. The regular currencies in the world don't do that. That's nuts. Or quadruple within a couple of months, So you would think it's going to chill out. So as I say, this is the golden age. Either way, it's going to change. And I don't know if that's going to be when Bitcoin's at 100,000 or a million or 50,000. Who knows? I don't know. So far, it's been this since the beginning. But as far as the method, I mean, it's swing trading, and things would have to really, really change for it not to work. I don't even know what. I can't even imagine. So, yeah, I'll probably just be doing this for the rest of my life. Maybe not such high percentages years from now as things stabilize. But I expect to do exactly the same method. I was reading Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. You fit his description of the perfect trader. I came across Mark Douglas once or twice many years ago, and I kind of disagreed with a couple of things I heard, but I really can't say that I know much. So, but I fit his description of the perfect trader. Oh, that's cool. Bitcoin down, cool, got it. Thanks. Pete, is always best to wait for the touch of the 14 EMA for a valid test. Yeah, if I'm going to be aggressive and chasing a move, at least I want to see a 14 EMA test. And in our case now, it just kind of jumped right off of it. So people still swing trade effects. Yeah, I mean, with effects, yeah, that's an example where if you're swing trading Forex, you're making very little percentage compared to what you're making on swing trading in cryptos. So yeah, it may be that in the future, you would think. In a few years, in 5 years, in 10 years, I don't know. No idea, but yeah. Swing trader is happy if they're going to make, 2-3%, maybe, a month. Not this, 10-20% thing that we're seeing now. If you're following my method, you're making that. Easily at least 10%, right? But I've been trading less and less day trading as I'm doing more and more on cryptos. It's actually been pretty steady. I mean, I know it's swing trading, so you're gonna get. I know it's gonna come back a week, 2, 3 weeks of just sideways crap, and yeah, maybe you made a little bit, and there's not much you could do sideways. Well, it'll happen again. But I think really since November or whenever, it's an ATM. It's not even right. It's weird. It's weird. It's supposed to be hard to make money. It feels like you're cheating. All right, we're coming down. What do you know? Patience. Now, we had to wait a little bit for it, but we have a nice low volume high. So we already started when I opened the charts talking about bullish environment. So we know our background is leaning bullish. And then we see higher prices come in after the open that are showing low volume, lack of weakness. So that does help back up the bullish situation. To bring it all together for a good entry is now on this down move to see strength, right? Now, if it's breaking 14 EMA, the next thing is 50 EMA, and also really, if we can get a fib test. Again, the euro, yeah, the euro's down here and it's in fib and all that, but the euro's weak. That's why it's not being able to mark up. Everything's marking up against the dollar and the yen, really, except the euro. So the euro's on the weak side. It's not my first choice here. But there you go. And what looks best as far as the least amount of weakness on the up move? The Australian dollar, right? Of course, my buddy. I'm going to get an AUD license plate or something. A tattoo. It's going to be my license plate. Odd money. It's so friendly. So if we can get, let's mark up our areas that we want to see. a test of, and would be great to see the strength come in, or at least the area that's going to tell us about buyers, whether they show up or not. And what are these old levels? Yeah, I don't care about that support anymore. This, whatever. Okay. Yeah. Let's get some proper accumulation. So, for example, what would be textbook right here? This doesn't have to be huge like the London Open spike, but now we have our relative kind of average here. And the higher the better. So even in this area, I'd look for the strength to come in. Now, if it happens sooner, we'll consider that. But it's nice to see that here would be one of the best probabilities to move up after that. So that's one thing. I always kind of go to what would be the best, mark that up first, see if you get it. Besides that, it could hit strength a little sooner. To convince me. The thing is, if you're able to do it down here, then you might get a 14 EMA low volume test for entry. If you get strength here, you're just kind of there, and you're close to the high still and all that. But I think we have something brewing here for a long. Euro should not go down because you don't like it. All right. Well, the euro's pretty weak today. Let's see the euro versus Australian dollar. Destruction. Oh, it's coming down. Euro versus pound. There's your destruction. Yes. So, like I said, that's why I'm not buying the euro. The other ones are fine. So again, fib retracements would be nice. If something happens sooner, I'll consider it, but it's not quite as good. It's still kind of close to the high. As far as the 14 EMA stuff, like we got past the 14 EMA, so that's that. But again, if we hit strength and pop up, we're likely going for the high and going to try to break it. And we already know there's not a lot of weakness, so we're likely to. So that's where we are. Let's see if we can get strength on a down move and where that shows up. Let's see the 50 EMA test here. Not a lot of volume. Let's see what the 1 minute looks like. At least a spike. Yeah, some. Not so much. So that would be nice, but we'll see. We can get there. Kangaroo tattoo. That's good. Can I get a bit of strength? Like even here, if we got a pop in volume, I would consider putting something on there. Can we get a little something? The euro's too weak. Not bad here. Seeing if there's anything good enough that I would take here off the scalp. As I say, the lower the volume, the better off the high. And the Australian dollars are the best at that. Pound, right? You have a bit of volume. Wow, look at that reaction. Mm. The most extreme imbalance is that low, again, the Australian dollar's off the high, low volume. Again, if I could get some strength, I'm looking at getting long. We just can't get an increase in volume on a down move. And you would think, well, maybe the buyers are likely at the fib, very likely. We know how these things usually look when you get there. You get your spike if the buyers show up. But there may not be enough selling to get it there. Now there's the option of kind of working your way in after such a reaction on these tests, which is pretty decent, to get in and possibly add here if your position is small and then get your stop loss out of the way. Not bad on the scalp trade here. It overshot the 14, but it came right back. All right, I'm going to put a small position on the Australian dollar long, which is basically a scalp trade. So I did that. Now it's a small position, risk-wise. So I'm in the trade AU long. I did put something on right here. Now it's a small position. So I'm putting my stop below all this for now. This is like I can work my way in. If it just shoots up, okay, at least I have something on it. Some of you have seen me do this. If it does pull back and does confirm entry, then I can add to it. And that would be closer to my stop. So that gives me more of a normal, risk, a smaller stop. So let me put my stop loss in right now. So I got that AU buy at 7698. And I didn't exactly calculate my risk, but I looked at the pip count here if we're considering the 65, or what's the low here, 68, 63. So it's small, and I can get my stop there, and then, like I said, if it does come down and set up the long entries, I can always add to it. If it doesn't set up, then it's a small loss. I didn't add to it. So let me get that in there. Oh, 7663. So that's 35.9 rounds off. 36 pip stop, which is a little larger than usual, on a small risk. Okay. Any questions about that, let me know. But basically, I mean, if you know my scalp entries and you understand that, again, this low volume at these high prices makes it very likely off a pattern like this to go back to that high. Now, if we go back to this high and try to move up in this high volume weakness, I can just throw my stop at break even. It's not like a conventional trade where I have all this room to, we'll see what goes on up here. We could get the highest volume of the day weakness up there, and that would be a bad sign. So it's that sort of entry, and there could be a 10 pip scalp, and that's why it's a scalp entry. But in this case, with the stop here, again, if it comes down, I can add to it. Even here, if it double bottoms, which is why I put the stop below here, you can get a double bottom, fake break, and see that accumulation properly happen and an entry. And again, these lower entries would be smaller pip count to the stop loss, right? Be less. So it's technically a better entry. But just putting together this picture, again, we started the session talking about bullish environment. So if you take that, you take this for what it is, it's London open volume. But this was not. This is true strength coming in here with a fake break pattern. London open volume, it is what it is. But then the result of that, at least, is higher prices. So we have effort versus result, right? And then you see the higher prices on the dip in volume. And that's key to me wanting to enter here now, because that shows that the selling is so inactive that it's very likely to even come here. But it could, because they could take their time, waiting for these lower prices to accumulate today. And if so, that's fine. But it's less likely to do that, be able to do that with such little selling being revealed to be able to even get down there. So you see my logic. So I want to put something on there in case it just runs up in a straight line. I got something on it. If it pulls back, I have room to be able to add if it sets up and shows that strength. If it doesn't, then fine. Now, having said that, I can manage the trade based on whatever I see. If we pop up here and get squashed on weakness, right, we read the chart as it goes. It doesn't mean I just let it run to my stop no matter what. Manage it based on what I'm seeing. A lot of times the charts, when you're in a trade, you may have noticed, if you know how to read a chart, then you'll get warnings that your trade maybe not going so well, maybe reversing, maybe moved up to an area, and saw this or this happen or that happened. So you can actually avoid taking that original full position loss, stop loss getting hit. In this case, right now it's at 63. So I manage the trade based on what I'm seeing. I don't overmanage and jump on everything. And just because there's high volume, I got to suddenly do something. See what it means. But certain key areas will give you information, and you want to make sure you're comfortable with your risk, considering new information, So I do actually enter trades. I don't just sit here and talk. There you go. Most of you know anyway from the live sessions. Most of you are from there anyway, I think. Would you do anything with the trade when the U.S. news are coming up? News. You know the deal with news, right? It depends where the trade is. I would definitely... Well, today is only medium impact news, and that's not for another 4.5 hours, I think, give or take. So it's only medium impact, not a big news day. If it was, then I would certainly, want to be on the charts, because normally I could just set alerts or whatever and walk away. But if news is coming out, especially if it's high impact, like tomorrow and the next day, Wednesday and Thursday, big stuff for the U.S. dollar, big stuff tomorrow. So yeah, in that case, it depends where I am, yeah, you want to manage knowing that it could get crazy. Everything could change. Not so much today on the news. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some high volume activity, but definitely tomorrow and the next day. Yeah. But you can be in a situation where your trade is just floating around. You're up 12 pips. It's just kind of sitting there. Not much is happening. News is coming out. And maybe you want to close half. Maybe you want to look to close half at your break-even point and trim it down if it does pull back. You know, whatever. But also, having said that, news is not a surprise very often. When you see, especially when you see pre-positioning, you know, if you see accumulation, and the news is coming out, what do you think is going to happen? It's either going to go into markup and move up out of that range, or it's going to dip and kick everyone out that had their stop loss and be able to buy more on that dip and then go up. But typically the background is going to play out on news, or maybe your bullish news comes out and it moves up and you see high volume weakness, and now is their chance to get profit and get out. So it's all based on what you're coming off of. You know, it's not a random event. It's all in context. And I don't really look at the news result. The charts just tell me everything. So maybe that's some helpful information. So I tend to do this sometimes like I did here. There's a decent chance, obviously good enough for me to have some small risk position, that is just going to go up from here and do another leg up. Very little supply. There's also a decent chance that if it does move down, it'll attract demand and give me an actual more, my classic sort of long setup. So I left room for that. What's least likely to happen here is that we just drop down, you know, and go here into new low ground. Very unlikely. So there's my stop and there's my plan. All right. And this is really a correlated situation, of course, like I said. AJ is very similar, likely going to do the same thing. Pound, though, did show some high volume off the high rather than that low volume. So technically, again, you see how similar they are. This is all being driven by weak U.S. dollar. You look at the dollar index. It's these charts upside down. That's what's running the show. But when I have to choose, whatever looks better. So a little better on the Australian dollar pairs. A lot of times that does play out. You know, the pound will get a little stuck, it'll hit weakness, and the Australian dollar may just keep floating up. The cleaner setups do tend to play out cleaner. It's a real thing. All right, so I wanted to do at least 2 hours. I did about 2.5 hours. And at least I got something going and told you my plan. But I'll hang out a bit longer. Why not? Dennis, I didn't even check that. Okay, good, yeah. You're overanalyzing? Yes. Possible. Is it, though? Any information is good information. So, again, really low volume on an up move. That's not no demand. Forget it. That's showing lack of supply. Lowest volume since London Open. So buyers may not get a lower price. And that's why I have at least something on here. Depends how much markup style buying is going to go on and if there's going to be even enough selling to get it down. Slight increase. Really, we're low down here, though. As we were talking about before, like lower than previous two. Not that this is a no demand or no supply, but lower than previous two. Well, this isn't lower than previous two, but it's really low volume still. So whatever. Where's Chad today? Where's Chad? You in here, Chad? It's like first session he missed in a year. All right, hanging out. I'm in this trade. All right, again, just chilling, doing something here. Hey, I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids. Nobody knows what that is. I have a small position on the AU long. If things go lower, I'll be looking to buy on strength or not. If it doesn't show up, things just want to go up in a straight line today. At least I'm in it. Well, speaking of that crap, how about those Bernie memes? Oh my God. Stop it. I don't know why we weren't memeing him sooner. Also, just to point out, if things move down, I don't have to buy the Australian dollar. I don't have to put it all on there. I could put some because I would want to improve my position. But I could split it up between this and something else that may come around and start looking better. Who knows? But likely the Australian dollar because of the very bullish nature of it at the moment.
Suffering in this pit I have chosen to call my home. She's not like you, you were the maker of dreams untold. Please believe in me and foresaid I lied once before that was then. Please forgive me. When sorrow calls you love me, I left you and lost it all. My heart's still yearning and broke by love. Can you hear me when sorrow calls? Please arrest the devil of shame living in my mind. Only you have the flare of service, you're so divine. Still embracing the memory of the woman you'll always be. Please forgive me. When sorrow calls, you love me. I left you and lost it all. My heart's still yearning and broke by love. Can you hear me when sorrow calls? Can you pardon me for I sin? I remain this way till the end. Please forgive me. When sorrow calls, you love me. I left you and lost it all. My heart's still hurting and broke by love. Can you hear me when sorrow calls? Oh, please forgive me. When sorrow calls, you love me. I left you and lost it all. My heart's still yearning and broke by love.
All right. I'll probably end the session soon. I told you my plan with the trade. If it moves down, what I'm going to do. What else? Targets. When it comes to targets, mark up the chart as if you were going short if you're long. And you'll have areas that are going to tell you where sellers may show up. Along with just general weakness. But if we move into this area, that's going to be very telling about sellers. If we get to a 618 here, that would be decent. I really wouldn't touch it until it got to this point, at least unless it showed some very high volume weakness on the way up. But otherwise, I'd probably wait for this area. It's kind of small pip count in here. Maybe the 618 overshoot shows some weakness, right, for a bit of profit taking. Depends how much. And then really the main thing for the entire move. Again, area where you may see weakness and a good target. So I mark up areas like I would, again, as I say, look to go short if I was going to short. And that's going to tell me where sellers going to come in, and then we see, what happens when it gets there, how much volume, how much weakness is coming in, how it's reacting. If it looks like it's going to be able to continue past here or not, right? But typically if I'm up a decent pip count and I'm starting to see some weakness at one of my areas, I'm going to start banking and move my stop to break even, that kind of thing. Or if it's late in the day and I'm sitting in some profit, I'm going to start banking it, whatever. Again, stop loss here to allow for the fake breakout and potential additional buy opportunities. A bit of a down move on the euro and the pound. Not so much on our guy. I'm stalling leaving because I really want to try to get a little further in this situation. But it's just kind of died here. Whether it was, we're seeing reaction to higher prices or lower prices. But we can do this again on Thursday. All right, guys. So I think most of you are sort of the usual crew or people that have attended the paid sessions when they were paid. Good to have you back, as usual. If you're new, check out my YouTube videos. They're free. Learn some stuff there. This damn trading shit, I can't figure it out. I'll help you. And also have my courses. If you want a discount, just email me. I can do that. No one's going to stop me. But here's the website. You say, Pete, I'm broke. I got no money. Give me the course. I'll give it to you. All right. There. I said it. But there's the website. And also on the subscription box, you can sign up for emails, let you know about the streams. But I'm going to go for this Thursday, most likely. But I think at least I'll be doing emails before I stream. So if you want a heads up ahead of time, subscribe there on the website. All right, guys. Thanks for attending. Most likely I'll be here on Thursday. We'll see how this plays out. And tomorrow is, tomorrow's interest rate for the U.S. So it's really, really big news. That's the most volatile stuff, right? Interest rate decisions. So just a heads up on that. Maybe I'll look for something early and then just not even worry about it. Not even want to be in a trade when that happens because things can go nuts. Just get past it. They happen every now and then. And then we'll see the aftermath if we get together Thursday. All right, guys. Have a good one. See you soon. Take care.